Live. Hi, everybody. It is Sami Vecchiolla, also known as Sami Sunshine, here with the fabulous Rob Genovesi, our newest area director and regional trainer for the region of the New York area. And we wanted to come to you today live to talk to you about Soundbites. And I brought Rob on specifically because it's part of his coaching process and he has so much to say about it. So, Rob, do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, this topic of sound bites, there's been, there's not enough said on it as far as how to do it. And I think the problem is that people come into a meeting and we just say, hey, give us 30 seconds or 60 seconds about what you do, introduce yourselves. And we kind of throw it on people to come up with something. And the fact is, this is not easy to do. To basically get people interested in what you do and educate them what you do in 30 seconds or 60 seconds is very difficult to do, because with every or pause or a word you didn't want to use, you waste a second or two of that 60 seconds. And so you don't always get your message across. So, what we'll talk about today is some frameworks on how to create the ultimate soundbite. And one thing that I always say too is always read your soundbite. I've been doing sound bites multiple times a week for over 8 months now, week after week after week. And I always read it. Even though I know it, I always read it because I want to make sure it comes across the way it should come across.
Now, when you read it, are you writing it out verbatim of word for word, or are you just giving general ideas and like points that you want to hit?
So what I do is I have, like I said, a framework that I use that I still read. And then there's a middle part in there that I can customize depending on who the audience is, what room I'm in, who I'm talking to, or even if I just want to get a certain message across this week, maybe it's relevant to something that's going on in the news or just in business in general, and I'll always customize that.
That's awesome. Do you want to share your special process?
Yeah, let's do that. So if you can bring up the screen here. So this here is a soundbite. I do this in my brand reveal with clients. I included it in there actually just earlier this year. I felt it was really important for clients as we develop their brand to be able to use an effective soundbite, because everywhere we go, we meet people and they go, what do you do? And what do most people do? They're like, well, I kind of do this. And they somewhat say what they do. And it's not always, I don't know how many rooms I've sat in where I'm like, somebody does a soundbite and I go, I still don't know what they do. So we're going to solve that today. So this frame, sorry, what's that?
I said, I hear that.
Yeah. You're like me. We get very impatient. It's like, I just still don't know what you do. Let's talk about that. So this framework here I developed is very, very basic. And this can help you craft a 30 to 60 second soundbite. And you can see this highlighted area here. This is the framework for it, where, you say, I'm, my name, you say your title, your company name, who you help and how you help them, your ideal client. And then you always end with your company name, or usually your own name, your company name, and the tagline. And then somewhere in the middle there, you can customize it. But this is the basics of what should be said. And when you do add that middle part, that will enable you to expand it up to 60 seconds. But here's the thing. When you write this out, it's always what you want to say and none of what you don't want to say. Yeah. So when somebody does their soundbite, they're not fumbling over the words. I know you've witnessed this too, and we've worked with people to help them overcome this, right?
Yeah. And I think, one of the key pieces is you can have the same soundbite saying your name, your title, the company, how you help, but specifically who you help, you can change week to week in your sound bites. This way you're not sounding robotic and repeating yourself every week. Because for those of you out there who are doing the sound bites that you have been doing for the last few years, nobody's listening anymore.
Yeah. It's true. And so that's where I think the relevance part comes into play. So for instance, every meeting that I go into, and you could see down just below the next paragraph, it has my personal soundbite. And I start out saying, I'm Rob Genovesi. I'm a branding coach. My company is Unleash My Beast brand. And this past week, I've said things like Gary Vee said, the best companies in the world don't sell, they brand. And so I'll change that quote. And the week before I did Barbara Corcoran. And right now, this coming week, I'm doing Magic Johnson. So that's where I change it a little bit. And you can put in something relevant like that, like a quote. You can put in a little twist about what you do and what makes you unique. And that's the part you can play with. But this part, this beginning part and this end part should always be the same. And when you can change that middle part, like you're saying, then it becomes interesting because people who hear you week after week will suddenly go, oh, wait a minute, he's saying something a little different.
Yeah, I think that's so key. So besides this framework, what are some things that people can say? I know you have this really awesome idea of can you talk about the bullseye?
Oh, the bullseye, the
dartboard? In a second. Yeah, the dartboard.
The ideal client?
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is a really good, a relevant point that's been coming up a lot lately about your ideal client. And when you craft your soundbite, I include the ideal client in there because here's the thing. If you are telling people who you are and what you do, and you're going to tell them, we always say, who are you looking for? Or who's your best referral source or something along that lines? Or, who do you help? When you say your ideal client, if you just say, anybody that owns a business or anybody that owns a home or whatever your industry is, you can't say anybody who, because that's nobody, right?
Exactly.
You know this, right?
Frustrating thing. Anybody with a pulse. Ugh.
Yeah. If you've got money, we can do business. So the bullseye idea came out of me explaining ideal client. And in my process, it becomes more in depth. But the basic idea is this. Everybody has an ideal client. And if you've been in business for a while, you can look at past clients who have been to you ideal. And so who are they? Number one, they can pay your fee, which I always include up front. If they can't pay, they're not an ideal client. People tend to go, well, I don't want to really talk about money, and money shouldn't be a qualifier. No, I disagree, because in the end, you're providing a lot of value, I assume, as a business owner, so you should get paid. So can they pay? Number two, do they see value in you, right? So if they don't value you, they're not a good client. And I actually have clients like this, have had clients like this where I thought they valued what I did, and I was fighting with them in a manner of speaking the whole way. But the ones who value what you do, they see you as the expert, and that's what we really want to be, the expert. And the third thing is,
can we just pause there, because that is so important to think about, because what you have to offer is valuable, and you don't want to target anybody and everybody for what's valuable that you're providing. You want to target those people that really love you. I know in my business, anybody could buy and sell a house. You could throw a stone and hit 18 different realtors, but I'm specific to who I'm looking for. And hopefully, if you know what it is, comment below. But I'm very specific on the person that I'm trying to attract, because those are the people that I'm most aligned with. And I'm very specific about it because there's so many houses to sell and so many realtors to take to do the same job. So I really love that piece, is knowing your worth and sharing the people that will value what you have to offer. Okay, now
and that is a big part of it. And I don't think people ever even think about that part, those who value what I do. And I notice I have the best relationships with clients and associates who value what I do and I value what they do. There's a big respect there. And so clients who can pay, clients who value what you do. And the third thing is, did they have a happy experience after you were done?
Yes.
So, if it goes sideways somewhere in the middle and in the end they're not happy, well, you got to look at it and see, well, why weren't they? Was it something I did, which I always look at it that way, extreme ownership. Did I do something wrong to mess it up? But if not, maybe they were something, maybe they weren't the ideal client, right?
Lisa Ferry got it
Or you
right.
got folks who own their home for 10 years or longer whose story you can share.
Yep.
Stories are great, right? I love stories. I could tell stories all day long about clients or whatnot. But so this whole dartboard thing, the bullseye. So the third thing is, are they happy? So when you look at that, can they pay? Do they value what you do? Are they happy? And so that's your ideal client. So that's the center of the bullseye. That's the dartboard. And you look at it, that little piece that we all go for. And so what happens is when you're out there doing business, you walk up to the dartboard and you throw the dart, you're always aiming for the bullseye. What inevitably happens, unless you're an expert at darts, you miss and you get somewhere outside the bullseye. And that's okay, because that means that although you didn't get the ideal client, you got somewhere very close. And that's okay too. But you would never walk up to the dartboard, face it, whoop, turn around and throw it over your shoulder and hit the wall, because why would you waste?
That's called the anybody and everybody dart.
That's right. I'm going to take a handful of darts. I'm just going to throw them, and wherever they land, those are the people I want. You get guy walks by, he's got one sticking out of his head. You don't want that guy. And so missing the dartboard, if you're going to put in the effort to get a client, make sure they're there, but at least very close. And so that's the ideal client. So when you do your soundbite, you've got to have them in mind so you can tell people what they look like, right? And we have
an awesome question in the chat that I definitely want to bring up. And if anyone that's watching has a question, comment below, and we'll bring up your question and one of us will answer it. But our boy Cameron here, because he's pivoting and has chosen to advertise his business dev live, which is at 11 a.m. every Monday through Friday, and it's fantastic. How should he position his brands? So he does have a large thing, but I mean, I'm going to hop right in there and answer, what is the overarching goal? So for me, I'm doing on Friday mornings the Dose of Sunshine. And that is because I believe in positivity, and that's part of my brand, is bringing positivity. So it doesn't have to do with real estate specifically, but it has to do with my brand of bringing a great experience to everyone. So Rob, do you want to chime in on that?
Yeah. So, well, first off, positioning is a whole thing in and of itself. But when we talk about, Cameron, your BizDev Live, which I was fortunate enough to be on. He's got a great production there, great show, and asked some great questions. So if we're talking about business development, I agree with you, Sammy. It should, in terms of the show, in terms of the interview and the process and providing value and entertainment people, you really want to have that overarching message of how you're coming at them. It's less about positioning your business as much as about positioning the show to add certain value. And so, like you said, your dose of sunshine is positivity. So we know what worked. We know what to expect going in. I'm not going in there looking for, down and dirty business strategies. This is about being light, about being happy, about, keeping positive in a time when it's not very easy to do that. So I agree with you there.
Yeah. James Storm says, stories equal entertainment, which I think kind of goes into what Cameron's doing, because he is in event staffing. He's doing this BizDev Live, and he really is in the entertainment sphere. So maybe doing some kind of twisting with entertainment and providing a full circle thing. I think you need to do a 1-3-5 on that, Cameron, and I'm happy to help.
Yeah, entertainment is a big part of it. So thank you, Jane, for saying that. I remember years ago when I was going through some mentoring programs, and they were very dry, and you really had to struggle to mentally stay with it, because look, we're human beings. We like to have a good time. And one of the senior coaches said, well, look, we're not here to have fun. We're here to learn. And I was like, I beg to differ. I want to learn and have fun, because the whole idea is when people are entertained and learning at the same time, we've got the best in infotainment, right? We're enjoying the learning process. We're all learning together, and it's fun. And I always say, I'm like, look, if you're building your business and you're not having fun, you are doing it wrong, because it should be fun, unless you're just not in a industry that you want to be in. Cameron's going to take you up on it.
Yeah, no problem. I'm always here for you. So I think I just thought of something and now it slipped through my head, but it had to do with what Cameron was saying. You said infotainment, and I thought that was so cool because one of the other things that Cameron does is he has these videos of how to set up your bar and like all these different things for events. So he's really in the infotainment sphere. So maybe that's his overarching is infotainment.
And you know what? It's just you just reminded me of this. So Cameron, he's in our Master Networks chapter at Mount Pleasant, and he was doing. It wasn't a soundbite, but he was doing his spotlight and talking about what he does. And I've seen so many of these where people get up there and they just speak about what they do and the paperwork and the data and the stuff that really bores the heck out of people, which here's where entertainment comes in. Cameron did that, but you know what he did? Because he's in the the event industry, he came in and he showed us how to carry like 5 plates on your arms and your hands and everything. And everybody remembered how to carry 5 plates on your arm, but nobody really heard the rest of the stuff except for the pieces that kind of stuck. But the fact that he entertained us, and I'm going to tell you, people have been talking about the plates for a long time. And then he did something on LinkedIn with how to hold like 10 glasses in your hand. And that's perfect. That's a perfect example of it. So what happens is if you're doing your soundbite, if you're entertaining a little bit, if you're interesting, that's why I do the quotes. And that's why I love it when people tell client stories. I know Jane has done this too. I've heard her do this. You tell client stories, people remember stories.
Absolutely. Does anyone have any other questions? Because I think this is a really great topic. So I want to drop a little ticker in here because this week the business breakthroughs is going to be focused in on sound bites. So if anyone has any questions on sound bites, drop it in there. Join me on Zoom. The information is in the email that Tina sent out on Sunday. And I'd be happy to help work on sound bites with all of you. Hopefully Rob, you'll be free to help too.
Sure. Well, we can make some time to do that. And we also have, you can get this in the back office, is this framework, which is more in depth. So I showed my framework for the soundbite there. But then there is another one in the Master Network's back office. It's the soundbite handout, right? And you can see this here. This is much more in depth. So if you want a worksheet, you love worksheets, this one really gets into the details of how you can craft a great soundbite with hooks and examples, benefits, offers. And that is actually a great resource if you really want to dive in. Mine was really basic to get you started because I really think that people need to have something basic just to get started so they can write it down. And if anybody missed it in the beginning, one of the key things I said was write down your soundbite and read it every single time. I do read it every single time. It helps you not to waste time, and it helps respect the time of other people. And most importantly, it gets you to the message of what you want to share, so people get the message that you intend them to hear.
I love that. So what are like the top 3 things that you would consider are most important in a Master Networks meeting during the sound bites?
The most important aspects in the meeting?
Yeah. I have mine ready to go.
Well, let's hear yours.
So have your finger on the trigger for the unmute button. That is so key. You're wasting seconds.
Oh, can I jump in there, please? I got to jump on this bandwagon. So Tina instituted something that was great. I think she got it from one of the presidents, but it's okay. Next up is Cameron, Lisa, and Jane. Okay, if she says you're next up, unmute then. Don't unmute right before it's your turn. Okay, so be ready with the unmute. Just don't talk while it's unmuted if that's the case, right? So
I would think about that in case you have other family members at home that make a lot of noise.
Yeah.
that's something that I would, be a little cautious on, but be ready. So if you know that Rob's going to go and then Cameron's going to go, well, as Rob is wrapping up his conversation, unmute yourself so you're ready to go. I think that's so important. So that's my biggest,
Lisa said, as long as the dog isn't barking, there's a lot of cases like that.
Right, exactly. That's really funny. I'll put that up. But yeah, so I think that's like number one. Number two is don't say hi everyone, because hi, we know you're here. We're all in the meeting. I think that's like kind of a wasted few seconds. If you say, good morning, I am blah 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 blah, that's different than hey everyone, how's it going? Hope you had a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. It's taking away from your time. And I mean, some of us are very sharp with our chapter meetings where it's like you have a timer and it's going to keep beeping until you're done. Others let it go on, but that makes it less engaging. So be clear and concise. That is like really key.
Yeah. And so go ahead. I'm guilty of that. But so I always do say, good morning, everybody. It's good to see you all. I do that, but I still get my soundbite out concise in 30 seconds because I wrote it down. So I would never say things extraneous like that if I didn't know really what I was going to say in the soundbite. So there's a caveat to that.
Yeah, and I don't mean like be rude. I'm not saying that, but be conscious of your time frame. If you I do this all the time because at 7:30 in the morning, I am not 100% there. So a lot of times I forget that, okay, I have a soundbite. And I hate to say it, but my poor chapter meeting, they get the worst of me because I am always trying to change my soundbite. And, as a realtor, I can't really say that in all the other chapter meetings that I go to. So they're the only one that gets that soundbite. So my Master Networks area director one, I got down pat because I'm saying it 6 and 7 times a week.
Right.
But my real estate one, I change it up because I'm like, wait, who am I? Huh? So I am a culprit of that. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect. I definitely am not. But I always yell at myself in my head, what are you doing? Wasted precious moments.
Yeah. And it's always a work in progress. I have my soundbite as I said, written out, but
thanks,
every
Lisa,
week.
I'll pay you later.
What's that?
I said, thanks, Lisa. I'll pay you later. She's always on point.
Yeah, sure is on point. And I like what Melanie said. She said, "Oh dear, okay, no more hi." We didn't say don't say hi, Melanie. You can say hi. You just got to be concise in the soundbite. And so I have mine written down, but I'm always going to and going, okay, maybe this week I'm going to write in something a little bit different. And I'm always crafting it and honing it. But again, those basics stay the same. Maybe this week's message might be a little different.
Okay, wait, we have a really awesome comment. I'm not sure who you are because you didn't say hello and awesome to StreamYard, allowing them to present your name. But this person says, I'm not a fan of writing down my soundbite and reading it because I won't be able to do that at an event, in an elevator, or in a meeting. Just my 2 cents. I love that. So I'm not saying that what we're saying is perfect, but we're specifically talking about Zoom meetings. And Master Networks is an opportunity for you to nail down your sound bites and nail them down in a way where you can be able to present them without a piece of paper, without any of it in front of you. It's an opportunity to practice.
And here's what's interesting about that. And it's a great point. What do you do if you're out and about?
Oh, and that's Carrie Flynn Barrett. And she is a knockout with her sound bites.
Oh, yeah.
She's great. Slow, and she does a really good job of pace, which is another thing that we didn't talk about, is the pace of your soundbite. That was my third pet peeve, is the people who rush at the end just to get their last few words in. But Carrie Flynn Barrett does a great job of having a very even tone throughout the whole entire thing. But let me let you finish commenting. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, that's okay. That's okay, because it's a great point about the pacing, which I didn't really think much about. But just to go back to, so she's not a fan of writing it down. Well, here's the thing. If you write it down and you read it all the time, when you're out and about and you're meeting people, you won't have to read it because it'll be in there. And that's the whole point. You won't fumble when it's go time. So you run into somebody at a meeting in person, and they go, "So what do you do?" You can immediately just go like this. It's subconscious, and it just rolls off your tongue. And here's the thing: the message is clear. That's the whole point. Whatever the message is, it's clear. You're not fumbling over the words. And when you write it down and you read it yourself, you can sit there and go, if I'm the other person, do they understand what I do? And it's really important to put yourself in other people's shoes, the other person's shoes, and ask yourself, do they understand what I'm saying? Are they receiving the message with the intent of which I delivered it? And I think that's the big point.
Also, I love that it was Carrie that said that, because it brought up so many other things that she does well. So the fact that she is the even pace throughout, that is so key. She always has a goal to her sound bites. So that's something that I wanted to bring up, is having a goal to what you want to say. Who are you trying to attract? So let's say you are it's easy for me. So a real estate agent, right? I'm looking to connect with not only buyers and sellers, but I'm thinking about my audience. So I'm sitting in a room with a bunch of business owners. I want to know, do they know any real estate attorneys? Do they know any divorce attorneys? Not because I'm getting divorced. Do they know any CPAs? Do they know any of these lists of people that could benefit me by bringing me business? As Julia Morse calls them, bird dogs. How many of those people can you fit into a soundbite? Maybe one or two at a time, but think of those people in addition to your ideal client. Because if you know your audience and you know that maybe they're not going to be the one to buy your widget and gidget, but they know someone who,
Yeah, and that comes back to what you're talking about. It's knowing your audience. You know, when I say write down your soundbite, I'm not saying be canned all the time. My whole message there is being clear in your communication. But when you know your audience, you can craft the middle of that, you know, outside of your name, your company, and all the basics. You can craft that inside of that soundbite. So if you're sitting in front of a room of a certain industry of people, or you can tell by the audience, or you know them, and you know what they do, you might change that in order to deliver a message of, yes, here's what I'm looking for, and these are the people who would know that. Versus if you're in a room with a completely different set of industry people, you would change that part. And so it's always taking the temperature of the room, who's listening, and being thoughtful in that. And I think that's a dynamic we never really touch on much, and it's a great point to know, who am I talking to and what's the message I need them to hear.
One of the things that Tina always teaches when people listen is she talks about how the soundbite is not an opportunity for you to list all of the things that you do. It's an opportunity for you to tease people into wanting more. So be a tease, have a clear and concise soundbite, and know your audience. I feel like that's like wrapping everything up, right? Like,
yeah,
tease people into wanting to learn more about what you do.
And why that is a good part of it, because, you know, the soundbite wasn't meant to be an interview for that person to suddenly burst out and give you a referral or say, I want to hire you. No, it's really a way for somebody to go, you know what, there may be something there where I could help them, or maybe they can help me, or I know somebody who maybe can use them. Like you said, let me learn more. Let's do a face-to-face. Let's take it to the next level, and let's expand on what that soundbite is. And that's when you sit down with somebody and you can really get into some of the details and tailor it to that particular person's what they may need, or maybe some of their sphere of influence, what those people need as well.
Ooh, okay, ready? We got another one.
Yeah.
On Zoom, it is extremely valuable for others to be engaged, and we all need to practice that behavior. Yes. That is so good. I love that.
Yeah, you know, you get a lot of personalities in a Zoom room. You know, there's some people. I mean, look, by nature, I am an introvert, and if you've ever followed the DISC model, personality styles, I'm the type of person, I'm passive. There's a people side of me, but I would just sooner sit there and listen to everybody talk than contribute. But if you want to be successful, you got to be able to contribute. And so that, that's part of the culture of Master Networks. You have to be a giver. You have to be a contributor. And that's what I think what she's talking about is, be engaged. Don't just sit there, but let's add to the dynamics, right?
Yes. I know in one of the meetings we had 42 people, I think, and Tina instituted a kind of like a contest, like vote for the best soundbite. And at the end, the person that got the most had a very memorable soundbite. They used keywords for their industry that were memorable. And that's a great opportunity for everyone to listen in. So maybe our presidents in the region, if you want to put together something like that, feel free. First person or the best soundbite gets to go first next time for a whole minute or something. There's great opportunities there.
And I remember that week when Tina was doing that, and I started to notice some things. And so when she had done it in a couple of meetings and said, vote for the best soundbite, I listened to what people thought was the best soundbite. And here's what I noticed, actually. People were commenting in the chat about their favorite soundbite being the one who had their most favorite tagline.
Tagline.
It was really interesting. Why? I mean, the tagline, in what I do, I have branded my process of coming up with a tagline, and it's a sticky tagline. It's that's what it's meant to do. It's meant to stick in people's minds. So that's why in my framework, I always tell people to end up with the tagline, because that's going to stick, so that people always remember you. And if they walk away with one thing, maybe they know a little bit about what you do, but that tagline will help them stick in their minds. And what it does is it usually gives people an association with kind of what you do, with kind of how you do it. And so when I saw that, I thought, how interesting that people with the taglines, the most catchy taglines, got the most votes.
So what are some of the taglines that you remember from meetings?
I remember, I don't remember the tagline specifically, but here's what I do remember. I remember the analogy. And this, I think the tagline had something to do with this, and it was Dahima Grant in the White Plains chapter. And she said, she's your GPS for your business. And people were like, oh my gosh, that's great. And she did a wonderful job. What's that?
That's the one that won.
That's the one that won. I'm your GPS. And that kind of metaphor, that analogy that helps people remember it, that's exactly what a tagline is supposed to do. But yeah, a great soundbite, like you're saying, should be memorable.
Changes on Lotus called Dr. Yotis. That's a good one.
Yeah,
I know if
right.
Money is something you want to keep having, talk to Devin. That's another one. And for your protection, use stone home inspections. I thought that was a good one.
And how about we take the commotion out of your promotion?
Yep, Maggie Ferry,
right? And so Lisa Ferry says, tagline work next week on business breakthroughs. Oh boy, we could do, Sami and I could do a lot of different breakthroughs for sure.
Absolutely. So I'm just going to drop this in there. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday this week, 12 p.m. on Zoom. Create your ultimate soundbite. That is available to everyone in Master Networks in the New York region.
And you should have a lot of people flooding in there, honestly, because I look, it's unfortunate, but a lot of people need to work on the sound bites. They need to put the conscious effort into developing it for the sake of their own business and for the sake of a well-run meeting. People like a well-run meeting where there isn't time wasted, or, not that it should be so staunch and uptight, but when we're doing sound bites and you're in a room of 30 people, that's a long time doing sound bites. And so you want them to be pretty concise, and you can be entertaining inside your sound bites so it's not boring all the time. But people definitely need to take advantage of your breakthrough this week so that they can get a properly written soundbite. And I would say that after this week, Sami, wouldn't you say that the week after, when we come back to our Zoom meetings, we should hear everybody have polished soundbites for sure?
Oh, I would hope so. One of the reasons why I bring business breakthroughs to all of you is because I want to make sure that all of you are getting the most out of membership. And if you're not having a polished soundbite, if you're not having awesome attraction from people, you're not getting the most out of membership. And that's something that I'm here to support all of you in. So if there's anything I can personally do for any of you, reach out. I always give my calendar in the chat. Have a face-to-face with me. Come on to the business breakthroughs. They're very specific and helping and targeting what you need to get fixed. I know a bunch of people that are on this live chatting. They've come on and it's awesome. So I'm here to support all of you.
And those business breakthroughs, I'm going to tell you, I think it's fantastic that you do those, because a lot of people need to work on different things, and there's components of a business that makes up your whole business. And so if people think, the sound bites aren't that big a deal, and well, maybe I'll come up with a tagline, or I'm working one, but it's been months since they come up with one. I want to tell you something. The only difference between ordinary and extraordinary is that little extra, and the extra is the details. If you don't pay attention to the details, you're just average, because the details are the only thing that makes the difference. So when you polish up a soundbite, when you come up with a tagline, all these things contribute towards you building a strong brand and a better business. And I want to thank you for putting on the business breakthroughs, because now I can see we're getting a lot of ideas for future ones of which you can cover that will really help people shore up those little details about their business.
Absolutely. So thank you, Rob, for joining me. I'm going to end the broadcast now, but how can everyone get in touch with you? And this time, remember what I told you last time.
I will never forget it. You can go into the back office of Master Networks and hit the direct track, and you can look me up in there, as well as you can find anybody in there who you want to connect with. It's a great tool to use.
That was so funny.
But thank you for having me on here. This was always a great time to be on here with you, so I appreciate it. Hopefully we're bringing lots of value to everybody, and look forward to doing more of these.
I have to show this last comment because I think it's so great. Engagement is more than participation. It can be as simple as showing up, paying attention, not multitasking. Listen. Without preparing your own soundbite, do you do your prep before the meeting or Zoom call? Great feedback. All right. Awesome. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you soon. Comment below. We'll respond to the comments and support all of you in membership.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Have a good day.